I am. I'm all ready. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
So, yeah, my co host Melinda will be introducing you to the audience. Yeah, over to you.
Okay,
So, ladies
that's
and
great.
gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce a phenomenal woman who wears many hats with grace and determination. Dr. Saralou, a distinguished women's life coach, NHS doctor, and honorary clinical senior lecturer at the University of Sheffield. So, Dr. Saralou is a beacon of empowerment for women across the globe. As the founder of Nurture Namaste, a community based outreach program, she extends her expertise to uplift women in need in Sheffield, UK. Driven by a passion for coaching women to lead their most joyful and fulfilled lives, she seamlessly navigates the delicate balance between the demands of work, family, and self care. With a genuine understanding of life business, Dr. Sarah Lou stands as an inspiring force dedicated to equipping women with the skills and resilience to conquer life's challenges. So please join me in welcoming the remarkable Dr. Sarah Lou to the stage. So that's one really wonderful
Thank
introduction,
you.
Sarah. So, and you can occupy the stage now. Good luck.
Thank you. Amazing. Thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction. Thank you. It's so wonderful to be here today, bringing to you something that I'm so incredibly passionate about, which is bringing well-being to absolutely every woman in everyday life. It's a real honor. So, today we're going to be looking at what well-being means, what it is and what it isn't. That message has become a little bit clouded in the media and the societal expectations of what that should look like. I want to discuss the issues with you about why that's not happening, what are the difficulties that we're encountering as women today, and also why it is so important, what's so important about our well-being. Why am I here today? Why do I want to talk to you about this? I want to just briefly cover some topics of positive psychology and cognitive behavioral coaching. These are vast topics, but what I want to do today is bring them into everyday application. So there's going to be some tips in there and some ideas that you can use in the everyday, as well as some of the deeper theory that is so incredibly interesting to look at a later date. And so what can we do when we want to move forward? What can we do with this new knowledge and where can it take us to? So, the reason I think this is such an important topic is I think around the world we can safely say that our well-being is under threat. That sounds like really strong words, but in my line of work as a doctor and as a women's coach, I am seeing an absolute epidemic of suffering. I'm seeing women who are stressed, who are lonely, who are tired and really overworked and overwhelmed. And when I say overworked, I mean both at the workplace and at home. It's coming from all directions. Also, we have an increasing societal pressure to be perfect, to do everything, to be capable, and to also not need to ask for help. And also, this means that women have started to lose touch with what their needs are. Because of that increasing pressure, because of that increasing workload, they've lost touch with what they actually need. We've buried it down so far. We've pushed ourselves to the bottom of the pile so many times that it means we've lost touch. We simply don't know what we need to do anymore. And it feels that we're stuck in this cycle of survival. We don't thrive anymore. We just survive. We just get through the day, into the next day, into the next week. And all of a sudden, months and maybe even years have passed, stuck in this survival mode. And part of that is because it feels like well-being has become a luxury. It feels like it's a luxury of time. It feels like it's a luxury of money. And in a day and a year where cost of living, recession are always in the media, no wonder it feels like we can't access these amazing tools and skills to actually give us a true sense of well-being. It feels like this is not a luxury product, and I don't believe that it is, but I believe that's the message that has been sold to us. So really, when you look at it like that, the very foundations to thrive are missing. And by those foundations, I mean foundations of feeling well, of feeling like yourself, of sleeping well, getting enough movement, food that fills your body and fuels your body, and having time to connect. All those things are so often missing in such a busy pace of life. But this has to change. It has to change. And that's why we're all here in this conference, giving our talks, as we believe that change is possible, but we also believe change is absolutely necessary, because it's not okay at the minute. It's not okay that we all feel so stressed, so tired, so overwhelmed day after day. We all deserve better. We really do. And when we feel better, just imagine the benefit that will ripple out in our lives. It'll ripple out to our families, it'll ripple out to our communities, it'll ripple out into our workplace. So I believe that small change absolutely has a massive potential for global expansion and development and well-being. Change starts at home, so let's explore some of that now. So before we do, I want to explain a little bit about me. That was such an incredible welcome. Thank you so much. Yeah, there's not much more to add. Thank you. But just to run through that briefly again, to let you know, I'm a certified women's life coach. I also work in the NHS here in the UK as a GP, and I'm a portfolio GP. So that means I really value my work-life balance. I balance having multiple different jobs and themes in my work, and I also really value having time at home and time to myself. And that balance is what keeps me feeling motivated, enthusiastic. It gives me time for all the bits of my life that I need. Another part of my life is being an honorary clinical senior lecturer at the University of Sheffield here in the UK. I teach across the undergraduate programme from the first years to the final year medical students, which is an amazing, amazing journey to see them go from really new to clinical practice right up to being ready to be doctors. A lot of my work involves communication skills, so I really value the art of true, beautiful communication to break down barriers, to make healthcare accessible, and to get these messages known across the community so that everyone can understand how to be well. That leads into my community work. I felt very passionate that some of the work that is going on is so powerful and so incredible, but yet, unfortunately, at times inaccessible to everyone in the community. Now, to go into all the details of why that is would be a whole other talk, but I felt for me that I had this desire, this urge to take some of these skills in my yoga training and my wellbeing training, as well as my communication and medical training, into the community, into an area here in Sheffield where the socioeconomic levels of deprivation are very high, as well as issues with safeguarding domestic violence and mental health. To take these skills, to take these ideas to a group of women who would not be able to access them any other way. And that work is incredibly rewarding and moving, to be bringing a group of women together every few weeks to meet, to chat, to move together, to do some gentle yoga, and to also learn about some skills of mindfulness and meditation to help calm some of the daily storm that they face in life. So I use my yoga teacher training in that aspect, but it also creeps into my life coaching as well, where I can use visualization and themes of NLP to help women really connect with where they are and who they want to be, and help them move forward. And yeah, balance is the goal, right? Balance is the thing that we're all after. So I am a mum and I'm also a wife. We also have a little doggy as well, and I absolutely get how hard it is to balance everything. I get it right sometimes, and not all the time, but every time we don't get that balance right, there's so many messages, there's so much to be aware of, to build back into our life, to build those foundations so that this becomes easier day by day, to make the well-being feel more accessible and achievable. I don't want this to be yet another thing that you need to do. I don't want this to be yet another task that needs to be done. I want this to feel joyful and rewarding and easy. So that leads into just thinking about my mission. Why I'm here today is I want to help women thrive again, to get out of survival mode, to get into thriving mode, and to stay there. I want them to find balance. I want them to enjoy life again. And I want them to realize what potential they have. So many women I meet are struggling. They've lost their sparkle. They don't feel like the best version of themselves anymore. And at times they don't even recognize who they are anymore. And I want them to reach their full potential again, which I know is in there. And I want them to believe that. And I empower them to go and get it. So the work I do as a coach is to help women lead the best version of their life. And really, we start right at the foundations. I don't believe that you can make any change in life that is going to be sustainable and achievable even without these strong foundations. So a lot of the work we do at the beginning is building awareness. And that's some of the themes we're going to be discussing later on in the talk, is building awareness into our everyday, quietening down the noise, the chatter, the negative inner critic, and listen to what is going on, why it's going on, and what we need to do about it. I also use the principles of psychology to help them understand themselves, often for the first time. So I help them to understand why they react the way they do, why they behave the way they do when they're triggered, when they're stressed, when they're challenged. I want them to understand whose script it is that they're following in life. Whose voice are they following? Whose path are they following? So often I hear that it's not actually their own. Again, awareness is the key, and we need to break things down right back to childhood at times, to being a young adult, to just looking at our life experiences and how they've molded us and the lessons we've learned along the way, some good, some bad. But there's tools that we can learn along the way. There's things that we can pick up that can make our everyday life better. We can reset the mindset. It feels like we can't. It feels like it's too hard. It feels like that inner voice, that inner critic is so strong. I get that. I totally hear you. But we can reset things. We can use the amazing ability of neuroplasticity, where our brains can relearn. And we can do that at no matter what age we are. And that's so, so exciting. And finally, once we have this awareness of what our needs are, what drives us, where we want to get to, we want to think about how to get there. So we don't want to get just left there with that information, which is incredible and amazing, but how do we get to where we want to be? And together we create a roadmap for life. So we use tools where we explore their values and their strengths and align their life with those so that it feels fulfilling and passionate and rewarding. We also identify what they truly want through visualization techniques, cutting down on the societal pressures and expectations, which so easily feel like they become part of ours, even when they don't actually serve us. And creating a roadmap. Now, that means creating goals, achievable goals, are sustainable, just to help guide movement through. And some of these are big. Some of these are moving to the other side of the world and changing career. Absolutely amazing. That's not for everyone, and we need to give space for the people who don't want something like that. We need to give space for the people who want to be able to go and do something for themselves just in a normal everyday week, where the thought of going and accessing some movement or a yoga class or gym class can feel so unachievable, that actually to help that person feel they're able to do that, and so week after week, is for me just as rewarding as a life coach, as helping someone navigate through the major life change that might be in moving across the world. These are both so important. It's all about the unique person and their unique story. So a little bit back to well-being, just to frame what we're going to learn about positive psychology and the cognitive behavioral coaching into a little bit more of a context. Now, I know on social media and on television, so often there's this lovely idea that well-being and self-care is actually all about bubble baths and, girls' days out and, buying some new clothes or getting some new jewelry. And those things are all amazing and wonderful. And do not get me wrong, I love them. There's just this idea that, you can go into a spa, you can have a day out like that, and you can forget your worries and everything is fixed. Now, those things are gorgeous and glorious and really can fill your cup up. They absolutely have a place. But what so often happens is we leave the spa or we come home from shopping, or we've had a new haircut, and things are as they were before. So maybe we've left our troubles at the door for a little while, but they're still there waiting for us. And the well-being I'm talking about is well-being that will carry you on through life, where you feel strong, where you feel resilient and you feel fulfilled. So imagine a life where you feel that day to day, things can be tricky and difficult. The ebbs and flow of life will always happen. And I want you to feel that you can flex with that and run with that and roll with the punches, in inverted commas, shall we say. And that's resilience, and that's so important. I feel strong, you feel empowered, you feel worthy, you feel that your voice matters. How amazing. If you could bring that into work, into your relationships, into your home life, to know that you matter. What a message that you could teach to your children as well. When they see you honor yourself, they know they matter too. And feeling fulfilled. Oh, absolutely. Imagine all those parts of your life feeling like they have attention. Sometimes equal attention is needed, sometimes a little bit different levels of attention. But if they were all fulfilled, how wonderful, how full would you feel? Now, that is the well-being that I'm talking about. You can see that I'm smiling thinking about it. I believe this is possible. I believe that every woman can have this, but sometimes we need a little bit of work to help us get there. So on the other side of the screen, you can see we're talking about having purpose and fulfillment. What I mean by this is we know that in life, it is actually really important to feel like you are doing some good. And often that is good for someone else, whether that is in your day job, your paid job, or hobby, or charity. The work that you do, giving something back, has a huge sense of purpose. This is what I am here for. I feel good when I do this. It also involves setting healthy boundaries. We live in a culture so often where women have slipped into roles of people pleasing, difficulty setting boundaries, and find it almost impossible to say no. Now, I believe that saying no gets easier the more you practice, but I know how hard it is to break some of these cycles. So we're talking about the negative cycles that have crept into our lives that maybe they did serve us at one point, but they no longer serve us. These are old cycles that we carried on into our lives, that they now drive us on to the brink where we are exhausted, we are overwhelmed, and we need to start to break these cycles apart. We need to understand why they are there, and we need to reframe the thinking, the mindset, so we can teach women to hold their boundaries, to demand that they are respected, actually. Not just ask, but demand at times and say, this is where I am and I will go no further because I need to protect some of the energy for myself and for my family. And imagine if you had this ability to say no and to hold a boundary, your work-life balance would start to feel a little bit more easy to achieve, wouldn't it? So what could you say no to at work that you really don't want to do, but you feel you have to because you always have done? Yeah, I'm not going to say this isn't hard. At times, changing the narrative, the script that we have been doing can shock people, but I want to give you the tools to be able to do that. And When our work-life balance has been out of whack for so long, we can creep into having unhealthy coping strategies. I think we can all identify times where we stayed up late, we've watched lots of TV, difficulty sleeping follows, or maybe we're using alcohol or other substances to calm the storm inside because we don't know how to do it any other way. And so having healthy coping strategies is a real foundation of well-being, and it allows you to feel more yourself each day. It allows you to feel a more resilient, strong version of yourself so that you can start to say no with more ease. You can start to recognize when you're slipping into people-pleasing behavior and change that before it takes its hold. And when you have those healthy coping strategies and you identify that they are so, so important, really what we're talking about here is having a sense of self-worth, of knowing that you matter, that you deserve this, that your needs deserve to be honored, respected. And that sense of self-worth allows you to feel more confident, allows you to have higher self-esteem, so that you're not going to settle, so that you will tolerate less. And that means you know what you need in life. And again, that feeds back into having healthier coping strategies, being able to hold boundaries, being able to say no, and being able to ask for what you need. And having that connection in life as well. So often in this modern life, we exist in, not quite isolation, but we don't have a huge amount of connection. We're hyper connected online, on social media. But how many times a day do we have proper connection with those that we love, or those that are acquaintances who have common interests, where we get to stimulate each other's minds and learn something new? So as you can see, well-being for me is a huge, complex, beautiful topic, so interwoven. But the end goal, the outcome, is strength and fulfillment and resilience and having a life that you love. Okay. So why do we find it so hard? And I think as women, in 2024, and for so long, and probably unfortunately maybe going into the future, we have so many challenges that we face. We have challenges from the outside. We have the external pressure of the societal expectations that we should have it all. So many women, maybe particularly millennial women, have been told they can have it all. They can have the career, the family, the house, the holidays. And yes, at times that is achievable, but sometimes it comes at great cost. And sometimes also you realize, you become more aware that yes, maybe I can have it all, but that's not what I want actually. And so the pressure to conform, to fit into the mold is huge. It really is. And you start to compare yourself to other people, and that can create some discomfort with where you are in life. And on top of all this, we feel like we're doing life, on our own. We're raising our children on our own. We're navigating life away from our families. We talk about this lack of a village. So we're missing the people around us that really, historically, always would have been there. There was a really interesting research project that came out recently that compared to maybe a Western culture, like here in the UK, where often a mum on maternity leave is by herself largely all of the day, versus some other parts of the world who exist more in a more, extended family, being close together, living close together, maybe even within the one household. We have the woman living in Britain with only her answering the baby cry, versus the family, more together, more of a community. The baby cries, there are 10 other people go to that baby to help the mum. So here in the UK, and I know in other parts of the world, we are missing the village. We are missing vital and necessary support at times in our lives where we are overwhelmed, where we are stressed, we are sleep deprived, and that is a huge challenge to our well-being and our mental health. That can tie into this idea, I'm going to just blur together the social media and comparison and the martyrdom and motherhood. So there are some messages on social media at the minute that mothers should give up their lives, they should give up their well-being, they should give up their happiness for their children. No, that's not okay. I am far more a believer in the happy mum means a happy baby. together you need to both be okay, you need to be well, you need to have your needs honored. This idea of martyrhood in the martyrdom in motherhood means that some people are looking on social media and seeing people doing things and looking like the perfect mom, the perfect parent. And in that snapshot, in that moment, we believe everything we know about their lives. We know they're the perfect parent. They never shout at the kids. They never get upset. They never give the kids fish fingers. But we know the reality of our own lives, don't we? We know that sometimes we're less than patient when they're not putting their shoes on. We know at times we do a freezer dinner, don't we? And so that comparison, on social media can drive this idea that we should copy what we're seeing on there, even though it may not be a true representation of what is happening. And so that comparison can become a stick that we beat ourselves across the back with, say, we must keep going, we must be perfect, we must do everything right because everyone else is. So not only are we missing the village where normally we should have actually been able to discuss and check things and have support from women who were older than us or maybe more experienced in motherhood, for example. Not only are we not having that connection and that source of advice, we're also not having the practical help and support as well. Huge challenges to our well-being and mental health, absolutely. And then on top of that, so often the maternity leave ends, we go back to work and we're left with this juggle. Now, I know I'm talking about women who have children and families, but I know this juggle and the mental load affects all women at all stages of their lives. We're juggling a huge load of work and home life. We want home life to be full of wonderful things, holidays, trips out, amazing experiences, home renovations, to the mental load of work where our emails can get us at any time of the day. We come home, on a Friday night. How many years ago? Should we say 10 years ago? That would have been the end of work. Maybe even longer ago. Whereas now we can just go on a Saturday morning, can't we? And we can check our emails and something comes through. And how often do you go on and you see something, you think, I wish I had not read that. That I did not need to see. And there goes our weekend because we're so stressed. Or we've got deadlines or we've got expectations or this competition for jobs. And we're living in a world, we're hearing the word redundancy often as well. Such a lot of pressure. And so we have this expectation. We have this expectation fueled by the social media comparisons, by the lack of village and support, as well as the message that you should have it all. So we expect, unrealistically, that we should always cope, that we should always manage, that we should be perfect, that we just work hard enough, everything will fall into place. What a burden to face. And it just taps into the fact that I really believe we've not been taught how to manage our own emotions. When we grew up in, let's say, in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, emotions were either good or they were bad. Good emotions were okay, but maybe not too many of them, not too loud. Bad emotions were not okay. Things like anger, things like being upset, things like being shy were not good. Now, this is not saying anything about our parents or the way they were brought up. This is how things were. They were doing their best with the knowledge they had at that time. But we know now that there is no such thing as a bad emotion. They're just different emotions. Some of them are glorious and joyful, like happiness. And some of them are more uncomfortable, anger, resentment. But they're there for a reason. They're teaching us, or they're trying to talk to us and tell us something. But if we just push them down and push them down, push them down, they can come out in all sorts of messy ways when we haven't been able to manage them, when we've pushed them down and pressurized them and not decompress them in a healthy, safe way. They can come out really messy and they can create some difficulty in life, that's for sure, at home and at work. Now, of course, with all this in mind, this cocktail where women are, there's no wonder we're struggling, we're feeling overwhelmed. We've got so much financial pressure. We talked about, redundancies. We talked about cost of living crisis, gender pay gaps, lack of resources. Wow. You realise how far we've still got to go in levelling the playing field, of breaking through the glass ceiling, allowing women to have the same rights as men. And the fact that women who have, children and maternity leave, and then more likely to go back and work less than full time, are having huge cuts in their pay. And that, I believe, is having an effect on the mindset of women, so that women are feeling like they deserve less time for themselves, and also less chances in going and doing things like, fostering a good sense of well-being, maybe joining a gym, maybe going to yoga classes, maybe seeing a friend, maybe going out in the evening. Because this pressure of money, some women are slipping into the mindset of, I don't deserve this because I had time off. So you can see it's quite a cocktail of things going on here, that in the coaching space, we just take bit by bit apart, start to unravel it and bring it out to build awareness. We get it all out in the open. We voice the things that are not normally voiced. We give space for the things that maybe no one else knows about you to come out in a safe and non-judgmental way. And this is where the healing happens. This is where the forward momentum happens. And this is where true change happens. So before we move on, it's just a good idea just to pause just for a second. I'm going to run through some questions. And I want you just to maybe even close your eyes and think about how you are. Let's pause. Let's check in. How would you describe your mood today? How are you sleeping at the moment? What about last night or the last week? In the last month? Have you had any time for your hobbies? And when did you last feel relaxed? When did you last feel relaxed without having to use alcohol or maybe even drugs? And what about your support? Have you got people that you can talk to, and I mean really talk to, decompress with, feel safe with, say whatever you need to say with? And how do you feel you're doing at looking after your physical health, your nutrition, your movement? And how's your relationship with food? How are you doing? What choices are you making? It's so easy when you're tired to eat the sweet stuff. I totally get it. I totally get it. And so let's move forward. Here's some of the science. This is why I do what I do. So I believe that we live in a state of chronic stress, of busyness, of stress, of doing, or we're just completely exhausted. We're either one or the other. We're stressed or we're knackered, as we say here in the UK. And this chronic unmanaged stress and not prioritizing our rest and our well-being leads straight in one direction to burnout. And I believe we need to recalibrate our nervous system so that we can reset the balance between our parasympathetics, that's our rest, and our sympathetic nervous systems, so that we're able to respond with energy and, I'm going to say stress inverted commas, appropriately when we need to, also to downregulate and relax and chill out as we need to. Stress itself is not the enemy. It's not being able to switch off the stress that is the problem. And what I mean by this is sometimes stress is needed. Our bodies are primed, our nervous systems remember what it was like, if you believe in evolution, millennia ago, when we had to run away from a threat, when we had to run away from whatever predator there was out there. We responded with stress. Our brains, our bodies kicked in, they knew exactly what to do. But when the stress was removed, everything was allowed to settle. And that's what is not happening nowadays. The stress is from everywhere. It's from outside, it's from inside, it's from outside of the home, it's from inside the home. It's everywhere. So we're not shutting the stress down. Therefore, we cannot relax on demand. I love this quote by Dr. Andrew Huberman. When our minds race and we are stressed, we cannot use our thoughts to reason with our thoughts. We must look to our body to recalibrate our state of mind. How amazing. What this means is we can't rationalize our way out of our stress thoughts. We can't tell ourselves to snap out of it, to get over it, to leave it. That just adds fuel to the flame because we're not being kind. We're not being compassionate to ourselves. We can use our bodies to do that instead. So moving on to how we can do some of this in the everyday. There's some wonderful research into positive psychology, I will go through the recipe for happiness in a few slides' time, and that's called PERMA. That's all the aspects we need in life to feel fulfilled, happy, joyful, the happy life. But what we can do, and what I want to bring to you today, is some tips that's also come from the research of positive psychology. There are 5 things down there on the left that we are able to do in the everyday. Now, we don't need to do all of them every day, but we can do these in the everyday life that we lead. Going to uni, going to work, picking the kids up from childcare, walking the dog. We can do these things, and these are proven to be able to enhance your well-being. So we know that if you do these things over the series of about 3 weeks, your brain reprograms, the neuroplasticity kicks in, and you become more positive in your outlook. Now, it's not all about viewing life through the positivity lens all the time, because, that's not a productive way to view things sometimes. But it is giving you something called the happiness advantage, this lovely phrase coined from positive psychology, that you are going to view things with a more positive mindset, therefore more positivity will flow in your life. So some examples you can do easily at home, whether that's in the morning. There's a big drive at the minute to do these in the morning, but I know that doesn't work for everyone, and I want these to feel accessible and doable and sustainable for you. So there's this idea of gratitude, of journaling one thing that has happened in the last 24 hours that you are grateful for. Write about it. What feelings did it conjure up? What happened? Who said what? And writing about it is so positive. It reinforces the positive message. Yes, you experience the gratitude in the moment, but it draws on it again and again, and it just starts to put that into the hardwire. Hello. And you can also list 3 things in your mind, or journal them down, 3 things that you are grateful for in the last week. Think about those things, write them down, take them to your heart. This ties in with journaling just about your daily life, about things that have maybe stressed you out, or things that have been good, or things that have been normal. Journal them down. A couple of minutes each day has been proven to make a huge, huge difference. This doesn't have to be an essay every day. There's also the idea of meditation and movement. So we can bring them in together. We can use moving meditation, where we are aware of our breath, we're aware of our surroundings, we're aware of nature particularly, and we're using the movement to just calm our nervous system, as well as doing the more classic meditation in a quiet place, really starting to calm our thoughts. As well as random acts of kindness. What a wonderful thing. So we are kind to other people. That helps us feel better as well. So moving on to the next slide. This is the recipe for happiness. Now, I'm not going to go into this in detail today, but if you have a moment just to have a look through those lovely words: enthusiasm, optimism, connection, support, productivity, reaching our goals, positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning and achievement. And so lastly, moving on to cognitive behavioural coaching. I believe that awareness really is the key to freedom. So awareness guides the journey to understanding for what you need and how to get it. And I guide my coachees in doing this, either just in their minds or doing on some journaling as a journaling exercise. So often it can be that when you have an emotional response that maybe was difficult or felt uncomfortable for you, or you behaved in a way that you felt, oh, maybe I wish I hadn't done that. Instead of allowing that negative mindset to come in and thinking about, oh, I'm a bad person, or indeed I've done something that I shouldn't have done, what I want you to do is notice what you notice instead. What do you notice about how you're feeling and about your emotions and any body sensations that might be happening at that time? Next, move on to, how were you before this? How was your well-being? How well were you slept? Had you had a chance to decompress and connect with your loved ones at the end of a hard day? What was the trigger? What was the moment that toppled you into these feelings, this behaviour pattern that felt so difficult? and then use this understanding to build control into expanding your awareness of what you need in life, how you can get it, what do you need to ask for, and increase, we call that window of tolerance. So the better slept you are, the better fed you are, the more connected you are, you're going to feel less easily triggered. But when you do notice these feelings, I want you to treat yourself with compassion and kindness. And so, just to finish up, it's really good to talk. If you want to be in contact, here is my contact information. I'm aware that time is maybe a little bit short. I'm just seeing if there are, if there are any questions. Let's have a look.
Hi, Sarah. Yeah, thank you so much, Saralou, for
Hi,
the
Melinda.
for the wonderful presentation about the life coaching and the challenges. So
Thank
you
you
really
so
explained
much.
very well. So we have a questions for you. So you can uh, message them separately, as because the other speakers are waiting on the backstage, as we are already
Okay,
already on the list. Okay. Thank you so much for joining.
absolutely. No problem. Thank you so much, Melinda. Bye bye, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye
Please
bye.
join our next.
Yeah, I will do.
Please join our next session, Zahra. Thank you.
Okay.